Nobody cares about you like you. Nobody is ever going to truly have your best interests at heart other than you yourself and your immediate family. So I say this because there's a couple things that I've seen recently that I like to tie things together and I like to see common threads. Couple very unfortunate incidents that I've seen recently. So if you're a football fan, you know what happened to Tua Tagovailoa uh, last night in the football game. If you don't know, Tua's team, the Miami Dolphins, played a game on Sunday where he sustained an injury that appeared to be a concussion. There is some debate as to what that injury was. He says it was a back injury, but like many football players, this is a guy that's very self-sacrificing. He's very team-oriented. He is kind of a sports warrior, if you will. Use that term a little loosely, but he's a guy that's always going to go back into the game, that's always going to want to go out there and win for his team. So, had an injury on Sunday that may or may not have been a concussion. He has had some concussion history before, but the team cleared him, but there's currently an investigation going on as into the team's handling of that situation. Now, due to the scheduling and kind of the money grubbing of the NFL, there's a Thursday night game. Tua's team plays in Thursday night's game, so he's got 4-day turnaround from what may or may not have been a concussion and what is a very questionable medical treatment of this man. He's starting in last night's game. Now, he takes a much worse hit in last night's game and had a very ugly, obvious concussion in a situation where I won't overly describe it to you. It's disturbing to watch, but he did something called posturing, which is evidence of a traumatic brain injury. So anyway, I don't want to get too much into that and the rampant conjecture about whether or not he should have played. The bottom line is this. There is a whole lot of agreement, and it's something that I personally believe that the man probably should not have been playing last night, and that the decision to have him play by the organization, by the NFL, to kind of cover it the way it was covered by the media was very profit-oriented. It was not safety-oriented. But in Tua's case, he went out there and sacrificed himself for the team, for a collective organization that, in hindsight and looking at it from the outside, it doesn't seem that the organization, whether that's his team or the NFL or the football kind of ecosystem, had his best interests at heart. They were all trying to make money and put the best product on the field, which is fine. It's a for-profit business. But the lesson learned there is that only you will look out for yourself. And it's not in Tua's nature to take himself off the field. It may not be in people's nature to say, hey, I gotta sit out this one, or I have a personal situation that I can't go out there for the team. But that's probably what should have happened. And if he had his own interests at heart and been looking out for himself, as some other players do, maybe it would have been a better part of valor to say, I need to be on the sidelines for this one. Not judging the man, just saying the lesson learned for the rest of us is you got to look out for yourself. Now, I have had some meetings recently with veterans and service members that are transitioning into veteran status, where they are just working right up until the closing gun. They are not taking advantage of transition programs. They don't know about transition programs. They, for whatever reason, not casting blame. I'm just saying I've had some disheartening conversations lately with service members who are just grinding themselves to the bone for the service right up until the end of their contract, and they're not taking care of themselves. Several conversations with people that don't understand the lingo of the business that they're trying to get into. Differences between terms, between jobs. They don't understand, the jobs that they're going out into. but they're crushing it for the military organization. They're working for their unit. They're working for the service right up until the end of their contract. Now, no issue with that if that is a decision that you make eyes wide open. Also, no issue with that if you and your command have come to a decision that you cannot be spared. Liberty is a privilege, not a right. Skillbridge is a privilege, not a right. The only thing that you have a right to is the leave that you have earned. Okay? So, those are facts. And there are a lot of kind of fire-breathing vet bros out there that will tell you that every service member has a right to Skillbridge. Factually incorrect. Now, you may think that every service member should be granted Skillbridge. As someone who's worked in manpower, I can tell you that that is unsustainable. And as a former leader of Marines, I can tell you that the vast majority of them don't want to do Skillbridge. They just want to kind of whatever their way out of the service. But there are different situations out there. The service members that I've spoken to, it seems to me, the impression that I get is that they have just chosen to keep working all the way until the end. And they're just kind of, well, I'll let my transition be my transition and kind of start that when I hit terminal leave. I tie it back. Folks, nobody's going to look out for you like you. The Miami Dolphins are in the business of winning football games and making money. Kind of go hand in hand. The National Football League is in the business of making money and selling an entertainment product. Neither one of them really have their players' best interests at heart other than how the players' best interests serve those primary functions. A military organization, number one priority is to defend this country, as it should be. And in the pursuit of that, at least in the Marine Corps, we had the primary and secondary goals of Marine Corps leadership. Primary goal is mission accomplishment. Secondary goal is troop welfare, and troop is just a general term describing all the personnel in the organization. And there are many debates as to what this means, but I think there's a definite parallel to out in the business world. The primary goal of a military organization is to accomplish the mission and to defend this country as effectively as possible. Troop welfare is secondary, and when we say welfare, we're talking about bringing all your people home from the fight, mentally, physically in one piece. And the trade-off there, and the way that these two kind of reconcile each other into number one and number two, is that in a situation where military service members have to sacrifice their lives, their well-being, or whatever in order to accomplish the mission, that is the price that we will pay. And that is the price that leaders have to be willing to pay with their subordinates. Now, what that means is those organizations, whether it's a for-profit business, whether it's a not-for-profit, whether it's a governmental organization, whether it's a military organization, their priorities are not your individual well-being. So that military organization, I talked to a Marine the other day. I talked to an officer from the Navy recently, one from the Army not that long ago, got another one later today. Those military organizations will always prioritize the mission over your personal needs when the two are in opposition. If they cannot satisfy both, they must satisfy the unit mission. That means that within reason and within your legal rights and capacity as a U.S. service member, you have to look out for yourself. I told Marines many, many times that they needed to prioritize their transition assistance and their transition readiness programs, those that are mandatory set down by Congress, that they needed to get to those early, they needed to pay attention, and they needed to prioritize them. We as a command, the units that I worked in, we prioritized getting Marines to those transition programs. Now you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So many Marines went to those on time and in accordance with regulations, and then sat there playing with their phones and didn't pay attention. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is just advise people, take the lessons that are out there. You have to prioritize yourself, your well-being, your family's well-being, your long-term career abilities. And you have to decide for yourself, where is that graduation? Where does that off-ramp start? For me, my separation was September 31st, 2021. There's no 31 days in September. September 30th, 2021. Today is my 1-year anniversary of that day. I started prioritizing small chunks of time 1 year before that, when I filed my retirement paperwork. So for the last year of my military service, and I came close to 24 years, for that last year, beginning with a small amount of time, 5, 10, 20 minutes a day, and eventually getting to the point where I was on SkillBridge and all of my time was devoted to transition, command authorized, I started to ramp up. As the energy that I devoted to the military mission drew down, often to the detriment of the job I was trying to do, my prioritization of myself and my family and my future career began to ramp up. I feel like that's a decision that every service member needs to make for themselves, but you've got to go into it eyes wide open. And by eyes wide open, what I mean is understand the variables and the factors that are going on around you, and understand the fact that that unit is going to likely give you some sort of award or recognition. Many thanks to 110 for the lovely plaque, the medal. But as beautiful as that thing is, I can't take that and sell it and get a job with it. I can't take the medal, the award that was given to me for my time as the executive officer of 110 and go earn anything with that. It was a wonderful honor, and I appreciate it. The Marine that I talked to recently, I'm sure for working straight up till a month from the end of his contract, he's going to get some awesome medal, and he's going to have some great memories from the mission that he's on. But none of that is going to buy him a job on the outside. And so you have to decide where your priorities lie. You have to decide what percentage of your time and energy needs to go to sustaining and finishing out the job that you're doing for your unit, for your country. And you need to decide how much of the rest gets filled in with preparing yourself to transition. Because whether it's 4 years or 40 years, we all transition to something. We may wax poetic about going Forrest Gump and retiring from the military just to go mow the lawn for the local high school. It doesn't really work out that way. You get bored easily. And we all go on to some other career. And whether or not you're ready for that career or even ready to start getting some entry-level job is largely going to be on you. You don't need to sacrifice yourself right up until the last day of your military career for that unit. They will carry on without you. Even if you do a terrible job, they will carry on without you. The military keeps on rolling. It's a giant machine. And you are, like in Blazing Saddles, Mongo is only pawn in great game of life. I was only pawn in great game of Marine Corps. Now, that needs some work. But I hope that you take a lesson from this. I hope that I tried to set a good example for Marines that came behind me. I tried to talk to them about the decisions that I made. I continue trying to do that just about every day. I talk to transitioning service members and veterans. But just keep in mind, nobody is going to have your best interest at heart but you. Everyone else has some other priority that is not your follow-on career, your long-term well-being. So just like the football player who goes out and sacrifices himself for the team, that team has no vested interest in that football player's long-term health, physical, mental, or otherwise. So just remember, you've got to prioritize yourself. It's not selfish, it's just being realistic. That the only person that really cares about the rest of your life is you and your family. And what are you doing for them today? I don't want to be somber, folks. I'm not a particularly funny guy. But I just felt like it was important to have that said. So with that, we're coming up on 16 minutes. Folks, if you got questions about this, if you disagree with me, if you if you got comments, if you've got examples from your personal life, I'd love to hear about them. Go ahead and put those down in the comments. Come find me on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok now too, if you want to check that out. Semper Fidelis, and I'll talk to you later.